My goal is to live an abundant, above average life. And so when I position myself to be an expectation, that opens a world of possibilities because my actions then have to follow. So no longer am I just swayed by what life is telling me to do. I'm telling my life what I need it to do. I'm telling my life the type of people that we want around. I'm telling my life the type of beautiful experiences I want. But it all takes audacity and boldness. Hey, it's EK, Erica Knox, and I'm so excited to welcome you back to yet another episode of Two Things Can Be True here at Women of Tomorrow. I'm so excited to dive into this topic. We've already covered so much, but this one is really important as we navigate the ups and downs of life, realizing that it's important to really stay grounded in your optimism while prepared for reality. This one is for all of my people who want to go from dreaming to doing and allowing optimism to lead the way in that right. So I'm really excited to dive into this with you all. Let's get into it. Growing up, I would always be the one person that was super positive, always dreaming big. And honestly, when you get into the world of reality, people will often shoot that down. They just can't fathom that you have just such a bright mind. You're daring to believe in yourself and believe beyond what you see your circumstance. I'm so excited and grateful that I always held on to my optimism no matter how crazy life got, because life will try to harden your heart, but it's on us to choose to keep our heart soft and allow all of the new ideas to come into the play. So let's get into the balance between optimism and realism. But in a world that tells you to stop being so positive and stop dreaming so big, and they kind of shoot those things down as if they cannot happen, remember that optimism is the faith that leads to achievement, but we can't do any of that without having hope. The world will try to strip you of your hope, and this is the time where I'm reclaiming my time. I'm reclaiming my hope, because you can't tell me that I won't be able to achieve the things that I have set my eyes on just because reality is a thing. Reality is a thing, and also so is Delulu. And so the more Delulu, the more Cholulu, your dreams come true. Now, hope is simply a feeling or expectation or desire for something to happen. But so many of us are not even allowing ourselves to have hope. We're not even allowing ourselves to have expectation. We're just going into this world with no expectation for what can come. And instead, we're going with the flow of what reality says, forgetting that we have the power to literally shift our reality. When we reframe our thoughts, we reframe our actions, and we reframe our environment, things can go from being reality to something that feels more optimistic and more hopeful. But it's on us to recognize our power in doing so. But as we know, two things can be true. When I think about realism as opposed to optimism, I mean, it has its perks because it keeps you grounded. It helps you to prepare for any possible setbacks. And it also helps you to position yourself to win. I know the reality of my situation, so I can prepare accordingly. I can set myself up so that I feel comfortable, I feel ready. And when it's time to take a leap of faith, I'm less likely to be afraid because all of my ducks are in a row. I've already addressed the current state of things, but I'm willing to shift them. And that's where we toggle between realism and optimism, recognizing what the current state of things are, but then leveraging your optimism to think about what you want this new thing to be. Whether it's a new chapter of your life, whether it's a new relationship, a new job, a new career path, really being in a state of expectation allows you to be inspired. It allows you to be motivated. It's the thing that fuels you because honestly, otherwise, you're just swayed by what life tells you to do. My goal is to live an abundant, above average life. And so when I position myself to be an expectation, that opens a world of possibilities because my actions then have to follow. So no longer am I just swayed by what life is telling me to do. I'm telling my life what I need it to do. I'm telling my life the type of people that we want around. I'm telling my life the type of beautiful experiences I want. But it all takes audacity and boldness. In a world that tells you to silence your hope, in a world that tells you to silence your thoughts and all of your dreams, be audacious and be bold. Dare to believe in something bigger than what you can see right now. And that is what I'm talking about when I mention optimism, is thinking beyond the current circumstances. Like, who said that we can't create a plot twist in our own lives? Now, I know there's a couple of different sayings about balancing optimism and realism, and they tell you to expect the best, prepare for the worst. But can I offer you a little shift in that perspective? I prepare for the best. I position myself for the worst. I prepare for the best knowing that I'm expecting great things to come to me. I'm expecting and allowing my thoughts to lead me to moments where I feel fulfilled, where I'm using my creativity to push myself into a new season. That's what I'm allowing my thoughts to push me into. But I'm also positioned for the worst. Now, if the worst does happen, I know how to reframe my thoughts to see the worst as something that can work in my favor. I know how to reframe the situation to think about what the lesson is that I'm gaining. I know how to reframe that negative worst mentality or obstacle that happens because I've already positioned myself. When you are grounded in hope and faith, you're not easily swayed by the different setbacks that come along life. And we've kind of talked about that a bit, where we know that if I'm going to prepare for the best, that doesn't mean I'm oblivious to the worst that can happen. It just means that I'm choosing to seat myself in power and expectation, knowing that if I think it, it can become my reality. If I think it, my actions must follow. And so begin to shape your environment and shape your life by your thoughts. It all starts in your mind. The world will place so many caps on your mind, and before you know it, you're thinking less and less and less of yourself and your dreams. But now is the time to take that key and unlock your mind and unlock new levels of your thoughts so that your actions and your behavior and your systems can all speak to those thoughts. My actions have to command to my thoughts. And it's so easy for negative thoughts to be seen as truth in your mind. But now is the time to take the key, take control over those thoughts, and choose to think optimistically. Dare to believe again. Dare to believe that you can try again and that this time the outcome will be totally different. Dare to believe that you can launch the business and this time it's going to do numbers. It's going to reach people. It's going to be impactful. Your target audience is just waiting for you. Dare to believe that even though you fell 7 times, this 8th time, it's going to be a successful relationship. You're going to find love. You're going to be in romance. It's going to be healthy. It's not going to be abusive. Dare to believe again. Ground yourself in the hope that if I believe it, I can achieve it, and it's already on the way to me. I know that telling someone to reframe their mind from the thoughts that they've had consistently for the past 10, 15, 20 years, it's honestly a first resort for you to have those thoughts that don't welcome new opportunities, new mindsets, and new experiences. I think we forget the power of our minds to shape our reality, to shape how we feel, to shape how we heal. And let me just make it practical. A friend of mine shared a story about World War I, and you have these surgeons who are operating on people who are in dire need for medical attention. Like they're getting blown up left and right. They need assistance now, but then they ran out of morphine. And instead they started giving these amputees water and saline. They tricked them into believing that they were being cured and healed and recovered and the pain was going away. But really, their mind tricked them into believing that. Their mind was able to tell their body that the pain is now becoming less. Their mind was able to trick their body into obeying the fact that we know we're being healed. We know that we're recovering. And so therefore, I am recovering internally. So think about that story when you're wondering how you can use your mind to shape your reality. If I think a thing, it has to come to pass. If I think something, it has to show up in my reality. That is the nature of expectation. It's thinking a thing and claiming it, going for it, and then believing that it's so. You'll start to see that all of the pieces are coming together right before your eyes. And it all began with just a thought. So reframing your mindset and taking control of those thoughts is power. And sometimes I like to just often allow my thoughts to arise. I don't want to silence those thoughts that lean into reality because those are true. Those will help me to position myself for the things that can come, the setbacks, the obstacles, the hindrance. That's what that prepares me for. But I will actively pull those thoughts into my optimism and shape my plan based on those two things, optimism and realism. And so let's get into how we can make a plan with those two in mind, pushing ourselves and pushing our limits while also recognizing where we have to show up for those setbacks, those hindrances, and everything in between. Now, before we even get into making plans and how to do so, can we make a pact? Let's make a pact that we will commit to the process. Let's make a pact that we will commit to the journey versus the destination. I think before you make any plans and you're factoring in the optimism, but you're also facing reality, it's important to set yourself up and position yourself in the fact that I'm committed to this process so that when obstacles do arise, realism, and when you are setting your expectations super high, you are able to balance yourself out by understanding that I'm in this for the long run. I'm committed to the journey, and the journey is going to get me to the destination in beautiful ways that I couldn't have imagined. Okay, so I want you to do this exercise with me. You already know the deal by now, and if you don't, go grab your journal, go grab a paper from the printer, or anything that will allow you to put pen to paper so we can do this exercise together. Now, the first step is to practically write down 3 big dreams that you have right now. Don't think about the timeline. Don't think about who's going to get in the way. Don't think about what people will think. Think about if you were to live a fulfilled life that you were proud of, what are 3 dreams that you have? Is it opening a huge business one day? Is it opening an agency? Is it starting a media network? Is it launching your first TV show? I want you to think as big as you can with no obstacles in mind, just removing your mind from the money, removing your mind from the reality of things, and taking yourself to that optimism where you're just believing in something and being delulu. Write down those 3 dreams, and then the next step is to write down 3 practical steps that can position you to achieve those dreams. Now, the dream may be out of reach, but if I have a huge dream where I'm talking about launching a huge business or a huge network, what are the guests that I want to have on that show? And so the first step is often research. Once you have that idea, thinking about what research can you do to position yourself as an expert over that big dream. Because before you know it, your thoughts will begin to obey the research that you have in your mind, because it takes into account all of that information that you've gathered so that when you're creating your plan, it's informed. Then I need you to write down any perceived obstacles that you could run into. Sometimes the obstacles are external, where it's not having enough finances or not having enough support externally, but sometimes the obstacles are internally. And so think about that doubtful statement that you always tell yourself when you're doing a new thing. I want you to write those down as well. So you're going to write down 1, your big dream, 2, 3 practical steps to get to that dream, and then 3, any obstacles that you perceive. Now, the 4th and final step is to write down a plan, a game plan on how you're going to combat that obstacle. So every time you get to that obstacle, you know what you're going to do. You're going to affirm yourself. You're going to let yourself know that you are capable of attacking this obstacle head on. 2, you're going to position yourself for whatever that is that you need for that obstacle, whether it's community, whether it's support, whether it's more research, whether it's raising funds and reaching out to people to support you in that moment. Think about really intentionally what you need to beat that obstacle, because optimism is not void of obstacles. Optimism says that I'm going to go toward it despite the obstacles. I'm going to go get that thing even in the face of obstacles. If not, then we're just being realists. And honestly, that is no way to live an above average, abundant life. Now, I know that we're pushing P. We're creating our game plan, but 2 other P's that you need on this journey of committing to the process, believing in your big dreams, and also factoring in reality are persistence and patience. It reminds me of the bamboo that grows so many deep roots beneath the surface for about 6 years of its life. So imagine 6 years of your life and you are not seeing any results externally. No one is able to give you credit. No one is able to gratify your process, but you know deep down inside something is growing. Something is literally being grounded and rooted right now in your life. And that is the power of recognizing your persistence and your patience throughout the process. Understanding that that bamboo that grows so many roots down below, within a week, it can grow up to 20 feet. See your process and your journey just like that. All of your efforts may not yield immediate results. See yourself as a bamboo, which is rooted deeply beneath the surface, but then in a matter of moments, all of your efforts that were not yielding results visibly to people, you weren't able to get the gratification for that process in the moment, immediately yield success visibly. I've seen it happen so many times in my life where I feel like I'm just doing the work with my head down. I'm working at it and I'm facing these obstacles. I'm pushing them out of my way. I'm jumping over hurdles. I'm staying optimistic. And it seems like nothing is moving. Nothing is happening. But then finally, something cracks beneath the surface of the roots of that bamboo. And before you know it, you'll begin to see the visible success of all of the seeds that you have planted. So that reminds me of this one thing that I like to take into account before we continue talking about this optimism thing. What seeds are you planting in this season? Are you planting seeds of fear, or are you planting seeds of faith? Are you planting seeds of audacity, or are you planting seeds of being safe and scared? What seeds are you planting in this season? The seeds that you're planting in your mind, the seeds that you're planting externally. I want you to be really intentional about those seeds because those are the ones that are going to yield results like the bamboo before you know it. And I'd hate for you to be watering a seed of fear for so many years thinking that it's going to yield a harvest of beautiful things. Sow a seed of faith. Sow a seed of expectation. Sow a seed of optimism. Choose to believe that you deserve great things so much that you will go for them. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the seeds that we're going to be planting in this season. So as we wrap up this conversation about balancing optimism and realism as we choose to dream big while factoring in reality, I want to remind you of this quote. Pessimists complain about the wind, optimists expect for it to change, and realists adjust its sails. I need you to find yourself in the middle of optimism, expecting for things to change, and then realism, putting yourself in position to adjust your sails accordingly. We are all capable of doing so, but I never want to find you in the pessimist seat where we're just complaining and doubting and worrying as if our thoughts and our actions cannot make change. They can and they will as soon as you choose to expect and adjust. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Two Things Can Be True, where we delve deep into all things optimism and realism and how they can ultimately work in our favor. I'm so excited to keep this conversation going. This has been a beautiful season so far, and honestly, we're just getting started. So thank you so much for tuning in. Be sure to check out all of the episodes that you might have missed because, honey, the gems are flowing. And stay tuned for the next episode.